Alright guys, this is Billy from Before the Pitch. We're talking about the DH today. We've had a lot of conversations going on the last couple weeks talking about the DH in terms of the NL and the fact that it may be coming to the NL over the next 2 years or so, maybe sooner. We'll talk about that. So, let's get into what the DH really is. So, the DH was implemented years ago for the AL, and it was supposed to be implemented in the NL, and it's been voted on multiple times by the owners, never really been able to come to any full conclusion about that. So, with that said, this seems inevitable at this point. And if we want to get into it, I think the Mets are well poised to adapt to the DH better than some other NL teams at the moment based on things like the Cano contract, J.D. Davis, Smith. We can even talk about Pete Alonso potentially. Now, with that said, I want to talk about why I think that the DH doesn't really need to be in baseball. First off, I'm an NL fan, and, this is going to be the same old trope that everyone is like, oh, but the NL teams, all they say is they like the game their way because they like watching the pitchers hit. They don't really mean that. No, I really do mean that because I go to AL baseball games. I'll go to a Yankee game. I'll go see the Baltimore Orioles. These are teams that are not too far off from me and that I've been to a few times. And frankly, when I've been to Philly, I've been to Washington for those games, I like the way the game is played better in the NL. I like seeing every guy off the bench have to contribute almost every night. I like seeing players get moved around the diamond, and versatility in what position somebody can play come into more than just the lineup card every morning. With that said, I want to talk about why the DH doesn't affect the AL as much as people think it does. So, first off, we're talking about AL teams. How many plate appearances does an AL pitcher actually have on a given year? Well, let's break it down by team. So, Baltimore Orioles, 19. Boston Red Sox, 23. Chicago White Sox, 20. Cleveland Indians, 19. Detroit Tigers, 23. Houston Astros, we got 21. Kansas City Royals, we're talking 22. Los Angeles Angels, 19. Minnesota Twins, 19. New York Yankees, we got 26. Oakland, we got 23. Seattle, we got 24. Tampa Bay, we got 24. Texas, we got 24. Toronto, we got 21. So, with that said, how many is that in total throughout the entire AL? That's 327 at-bats. That really seems like a lot. It's not. 327 at-bats is 0.0035% of the total AL plate appearances last season. For anyone that cares out there, that number is 93,274 plate appearances throughout the entire AL. That's every team combined all season. That's such a small number. You're talking, the NL has such an advantage. They take 0.0035% of the at-bats that your entire team makes. That's such a small number. There is no reason that anybody should be complaining about the number of at-bats an AL pitcher takes. If we want to break it down further, every team in the AL had over 6,000 6,000 plate appearances by their entire teams. So, when it gets down into talking about the individual teams, you're talking less than 30 at-bats per team for their pitchers. That's nothing. That literally is nothing. If you lose your season over the course of 30 at-bats, well, sorry. You know what? You probably didn't belong in the playoffs to begin with. Let's break this down further into an individual team, talking about the New York Yankees. So, talking about the Yankees, we got Paxton, Herman, Happ, CC Sabathia, Luis Sessa, Masahiro Tanaka, and Chad Green. Who had the most? Well, it was Paxton and Herman. They both had 8. That's 16 at-bats. The Yankees had the most plate appearances by a single team in the AL all of last season. It was 26. You're talking 2 pitchers took half of that. That's really nothing, guys. And I'm sorry, I can't sit here and say that I'm going to enjoy it so much more when I see an at-bat over and over again, someone trying to smack a home run. Honestly, I like things like hit and runs. I like things like pinch hitting. I like seeing the guys off the bench get an opportunity every night to contribute to the team. Because most nights you watch an AL game and you have maybe one substitution. One player comes into the game for maybe defensive purposes. No, every person on an AL bench has to contribute every single night. And the fact that we've expanded the bench to be another player this year, that's one more guy on the AL that's just going to sit on the bench every night. And that's not fun to me. I like seeing those guys contribute, because for teams that actually have players who can contribute in those pinch hitting roles night in and night out, that is such a weapon that other teams don't have in the NL. And it means that every player means more on your team. And that is important to me, that every player every day contributes. It means more in the NL, and it should always mean more in the NL. So the other things we always talk about when it comes to pitchers is pitcher safety. Running the base paths is dangerous. They don't hit all the time. These are false accusations. The number of times that I've seen a pitcher actually get hurt while he's batting or on the base patch is such a small number. It just blows up in the media because they're like, they shouldn't be hitting. This doesn't happen that often, and teams recognize this. It's why they don't really mind it as much. When it does happen, you're going to always have the manager, well, they shouldn't be, because you know what? That's what they're going to say. That's what they have to say in the media. But when we're talking about pitcher safety, the most dangerous thing for a pitcher is pitching. You have pitcher safety that's at the paramount of all things in baseball nowadays. And so when you add a DH to a lineup that's already deep, now you're talking about every batter in that lineup is a high leverage situation for these pitchers. There is no break for them. And the fact that a pitcher can use the ability to get a pitcher out a little bit easier is actually protecting pitchers. When you only have to throw 3 pitches to get this guy out, or maybe a 4th pitch to get this guy out every single time he's up, well, that takes stress off of the pitcher. Those are not high leverage situations that we talk about when pitchers are in risk of injury, pitch counts, when to pull a pitcher out of a game. This is all based on high leverage situations. You could have a pitcher that threw 90 pitches over the course of 4 innings that is a lot more stressed out and a lot more in risk of injury than a pitcher who went 105 pitches but completed the game. Because guess what? At no point was that guy actually in a higher leverage situation as much as the guy who only threw 4 innings. This is what we're talking about. This is what the DH can do to put people into these situations. So when you're talking about, I don't want to see my pitchers hit, you don't see your pitchers hit 1% of the time. And guess what, guys? If you don't like seeing the pitchers hit because you're an AL fan, that's fine. Guess what? When I go to your ballpark, I abide by your rules. When you come to mine, you abide by mine. That's the way it goes. Sorry. Home field advantage. It's a thing. It's really just not much of a big deal because it doesn't matter all that much. Because guess what? When I go into the AL park, I don't really have a team that's built around the idea of a DH, so you have the advantage. Well, guess what? Your pitchers have less experience hitting. Well, guess what? Mine do. That's my advantage in my park. That's your advantage in your park. Let me enjoy the game the way I like enjoying it, and don't tell me that the way I'm enjoying the game is wrong, because I like it. So you can't tell me that's wrong, and I can't tell you the way you like the game is wrong. I'm just saying that it's not as big of a deal as everybody makes it out to be, and we all just need to calm down when it comes to this. So with that said, this has been Before the Pitch. I've been Billy, and we'll talk to y'all later.